Hi, my name is Dave Cox. I was the former record holder for the swim from Catalina Island to the mainland, and I've swam the English Channel. During the past 2 years, I've been involved with doing triathlons. One of the things I've noticed is a lot of triathletes swim in open water for the first time during their first triathlon. This is a big mistake. One of the things you want to make sure you do is that if you're going to swim open water in your first triathlon, you need to spend time practicing in open water. It's a completely different environment than swimming in a swimming pool. In open water, you get used to the water temperature, the currents, and you also get used to navigating your surroundings in water that doesn't have lane lines and doesn't have a stripe on the bottom of the pool. Acclimating to cold water is really important. We're going to show you a few things that you can do to start preparing yourself to swim in open water. But again, remember, the biggest thing is get in open water and practice in open water, okay, for weeks prior to you actually doing your first swim. The first thing we want to talk about is what kinds of things you need to be prepared to swim in open water. There's some things that are obvious. Number one, you need goggles. And you probably ought to have at least a couple pair of goggles, one that's shaded, one that's not shaded. You may even want to have backup goggles for both of these, okay? Because it's really the piss to spend all the time to get down to wherever you're going and then not be able to get in the water and swim because you have problems with your goggles. The next thing you'll want to make sure you have is some type of a swim cap. A latex swim cap is great. It's amazing how much heat these things will conserve for you. Okay, even though the water may only be 55, 60 degrees, if you get in without a swim cap, you'll notice many times your sinuses ache, you feel miserable. But just by using this one little device, it's amazing how much heat you'll retain. Okay? The next thing is you'll want some type of lubrication. The cheapest thing is to buy some petroleum jelly. Okay? Armpits is usually the first place that you put it, a lot of times around the neck and any other area that you may rub when you swim. You'll kind of get to know where these places are as you swim more and more, and you'll know automatically where to put them. A little more expensive way to go when you're lubing up to swim is things like Tri-Glide, butt butter that they sell for bicycling. There's a number of things. The upside with this is there's no smell to it. The difficulty with the petroleum jelly is that you put this in your armpits and you're going to be stinky the rest of the day. It's kind of an armpity smell. But again, really cheap, very effective. If you're going to do a long swim, more than an hour or 2 hours, this stuff's a lot better than the expensive stuff. One of the other cool things that we have today are these great wetsuits. They're really nice for swimming, they're very flexible, they're a lot better than the old wetsuits we used to use for surfing. They make you a lot more buoyant in the water. So if you're somebody that's swimming in open water the first time and you're trying to get used to the cold and you're a little nervous about being buoyant enough, these are great. But you'll also want to spend a lot of time without these wetsuits on, getting used to swimming without the extra buoyancy of the wetsuit. Because if you're a triathlete, you know that some triathlons that you compete in won't allow you to wear a wetsuit. The water will be too warm. So again, part of practicing for open water, especially if you're doing triathlons, is to make sure you swim with and without your wetsuit. So here we go, base in the water, swimming. You'll notice it's quite a bit different than swimming in a swimming pool. An important thing to note is that this is a sunny day, and that's about all you can see in the water. So this is pretty typical. If it wasn't a sunny day, that you'd probably be looking at a lot of gray, and you probably wouldn't be able to see the end of your hands. So if you're used to swimming in a swimming pool only, this can be a little unnerving, not to mention somewhat disorienting. But with a little practice, it's amazing how you can use the feeling of the sun, your peripheral vision, and other landmarks to orient yourself and to swim pretty much a straight line. If the water is going to be 55 degrees, cooler, or just a little bit warmer,
you'll want to do some bobbing before you start your race. It's amazing how much difference this can make in helping you breathe easy and relax for the race. If you don't do it, sometimes it can create a feeling of panic, and it can make your swim far less enjoyable than it can be. Here I am swimming along, good positioning. I'm over my center of buoyancy. You'll notice my kick is propelling me easily through the water because I have good body position. I've slowed up the frames a little bit so you can see the stroke a little better. Notice that I'm breathing on both sides. All of these things are important techniques that you can learn in the pool. But you need to make sure that you spend time in open water, because many of these things can completely disappear if the water's cold, if you're disoriented, okay, or you're just plain upset because things aren't going so well. So remember, practice in open water so you can maintain this level of comfort and perform at your best.
Okay, so remember that some of the most important things about open water are getting used to open water. Remember that anytime you're swimming in colder water, you want to bob, get acclimated to the water at least 1 or 2 minutes before you're starting to swim your event. And one of the biggest things is swimming in open water so you can be oriented, because you won't be used to no lane lines, no mark on the bottom of the pool unless you work on it and spend time doing that.